Okay. It's 1 o'clock. So here we go. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the second Saturday seminar series. That's hard to say fast. I'm Susan Jones, and I'm here at the Animas Museum with Ed Horvat and Charles DiFerdinando. Now, this is a hybrid event today. We are live in the 1905 classroom at the museum. We're streaming on Zoom, and we're recording. So bear with us. Kind of getting all this technology to work together is kind of tough, especially in this building, but we're doing the best we can. So today, I hope everybody is familiar with the work of John Fielder. I know some people might not be. He was an amazing photographer and who really loved Colorado and loved history. He was famous for searching out spots where photographers, especially ones like William Henry Jackson, had been in the 1870s and 1880s, and he would take photographs using modern cameras, just absolutely gorgeous photographs from the same spot. He was also a great supporter of museums in Colorado. And when he died in 2023, actually just before he died, he donated his entire collection of over 6,000 photographs to History Colorado, which is the state historical foundation. You can see his collection online at historycolorado.org. And John Fielder's work was one of the things that inspired this talk. Ed Horvat, as everybody knows, he writes the "And the West Was History" fame. He started to search out some of the sites where he knows we have photographs in our collections, and he took pictures today of those spots. Now, we don't know a lot about who took some of these photographs. We don't know if it was a William Henry Jackson, or some of them we know, and we'll kind of point those out while we know them. But still, it's just fascinating to see the changes that time hath wrought over the years. Now, we had to limit the photos that we could fit into this presentation. But if you like what you see, let us know, and we'll do another one with even more photos. Now, for those of you on Zoom, real quick, some housekeeping. We're using Zoom's webinar feature today, which means that you're all muted and your mics are and your videos are off. And at the bottom of your screen, you might need to mouse down to see it. There are a couple icons. We're going to be using the chat function today to communicate with you. So if anything comes up, type it in the chat, and we'll see what we can do to take care of it. Also, we're supporting closed captioning. So if you want closed captioning and you have to turn it on, again, there's an icon at the bottom of your screen that says captions. Just click on it, and it'll turn green when it's enabled. Now, everybody hold your questions for the end of the talk, and we'll open up for questions then. If you're in the classroom, we'll start with you guys. And what you can ask the questions, and we're going to have either Ed or Charlie repeat it, because we only have 2 microphones, so they can't hear you. So they'll repeat the question. If you're on Zoom, go ahead and type your questions into the chat at any time, and we'll do the same. We'll ask the guys, and they'll repeat the questions, and so everybody will hear the answers. With that, this session is being recorded, and you will receive an email in 24 hours with a link to the recording and the show notes. So I'll give you Ed and Charlie.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. I want to get to the pictures because I know that's what people want to see. Just a little background. Last December, well, I do the And the West is History, and I get feedback all the time. People really like when I tell them in that feature what's there today, where the pictures are. And I've got a lot of feedback on that. People like that. So when I was going around giving my talk about the Images of America, La Plata County book that I did last year, I decided a couple of the presentations just to put in old pictures or new pictures of some of the old pictures. And oh my gosh, people really seem to take a great interest in that. In fact, they like that way more than anything I had to say about writing that book, I'll tell you. They enjoyed the picture. So last December, I told Susan, I think this might be a good thing to do. I thought I could go around and get some pictures and have some before and after now and then, yesterday and today type of stuff. And she said, well, oh yeah, it's kind of like a little John Fielder thing. And I go, yeah, who's John Fielder? And then she explained it to me. And I go, oh yeah, I've seen his stuff. But I understand because I tell people, oh, I do And the West is History. They go, oh yeah, I read that all the time. I like that. And I tell them who my name is, and they have a blank look on their face, like, oh, who are you? Like, nobody pays attention to who does stuff, but they know the work. So anyway, that's how that got started. I started in December to go around and take pictures, and it was the right time of year. What do you think the biggest obstacle for getting now and then pictures are? Trees. Oh my gosh. So you have to do it really in late fall, early spring, or during the winter when the trees don't have leaves. Because if you don't, all you see is just a green carpet of foliage in a lot of these things. And there's also other obstructions. Buildings get built, and sometimes it's just hard to tell where the photographers were standing. So just kind of bear in mind that I tried to kind of make a close approximation to where the photographer was standing, but you'll see that there's some discrepancies. But I tried my best, and we'll see how it worked out. But with that, I'll let Charlie talk. I put 3 pictures on to start the presentation. All the other pictures are just 2. But I'll let Charlie say something about these.
Well, it's just good to start here with our building, and you can see it, of course, soon after it was completed, before 1919. It was opened in 1905. Of course, they had a major fire in October of 1919 that burned the roof. They placed a flat roof on to get the building back into service as quickly as possible. And it had a flat roof until we reconstructed the original roof design. And so the last picture there you see is what it looks like today, which is what it looked like when it opened in 1905. But what's interesting, if you look in the background in that early picture, there's some fairly large ponderosa pines on the ridgeline and so forth. And of course, they don't exist today. They were either cut down for firewood or other purposes. And so, of course, the whole neighborhood around us has changed, but the building itself is pretty much like it was in 1905 when it opened. So,
and there still are some ponderosa pines in this neighborhood. I live across the street, grew up just right down the street. And if you go around these neighborhoods, you still see some of the ponderosa pines are still around, just not the ones in the picture. Okay, this picture was taken by the U.S. Geological Survey, and I think most people have seen this one that have been into the museum or paid attention to some of the historical Facebook sites. This one gets used a lot. It's been in a number of books. And this is the first one I actually copied. I retired in 2016. In 2017, I went up on the hill to try to match this picture just for my own edification. I just thought it would be fun to take a picture and blow it up and put it in my house. And that's what I've done. I have this picture and this one. And that I took in 2017, and I took it in the same month of November. And you can definitely see that when I talk about trees and what's there now, how.
And we didn't mention that's Animas City,
Right,
which predated Durango, but it's 1897 when the photograph was taken. So Animas City is much smaller than it had been in 1879 or 1880 before Durango was established. It's already shrunk quite a bit. So
you see the terminal moraines of the glaciers that came down. That's how far some of the glaciers came before they ended. And they're still kind of hard to tell, but they're still there. There is a building, well, there's a couple buildings that still exist. Charlie says this one still exists across the river.
Both of those.
Oh, yeah, both of these, but this one right here, it's a white building in this picture. That's in the alley next to City Market. And this building right here still exists, but it's not in the same place. Let me just show you where those buildings are now. So this one, it's really dark, but that storage building is still there down by City Market. You can drive through the alley and see it. It's built of stone. It's a pretty cool building, but it's boarded up. I don't think they do anything with it. And the building that, the other one, this one is Joy Cabin. And it's right outside the windows right now. And it's been moved twice from there down to Brookside Park and then back here in the 1980s. So
you can see what an urban forest does, but you couldn't have an urban forest till you had a water system.
yeah.
And that's very evident there when you look at the earlier picture and the current picture.
Yeah. I go around taking pictures. There's entirely too many trees in Durango now. Just all right. This says Animas City, 1880. Some of these dates, maybe I should have put circa. We're pretty sure about when they were taken. If anybody sees a date that they're pretty sure is wrong, let us know because we're trying to update them. But that's Animas City, the main business area. Is there anything you wanted to say about?
Well, if you down at over to the left there, or far right, excuse me, over there to the right, you see the edge of Smelter Mountain in the south end of town there. But of course, this is up here in Animas City. It would be the 3100 block of Main today on the west side.
That's it.
That's
And a good way to Durango's lucky in a lot of ways. There are people doing this lucky because there are certain things that haven't changed. All the mountains are still here from Durango was founded. Every single one of them is, from what I understand. But you can match things with Animas Hill here, Smelter, and it was kind of pretty easy to come close anyway. But yeah. That's Main Avenue, Spanish Trails. I grew up right behind Spanish Trails. One of my good friends, Matt Miller's parents owned that, and I was showing him last week some of these pictures, and he really liked them. Oh, okay. Everybody recognize that, don't you? That's where it is now. That's the same place. That is taken at 31st and Main. That's this northeast corner. And if you want to see where this is now, just have to look out that window. That's the Joy Cabin.
What's funny about this, you can see the stop sign there. Go back to the new picture.
Yeah, my friend Matt said, is that the same stop sign? I think probably. I don't know. But you know what? We think it really is the same. We think that the fire hydrant is the same. We don't think it looks exactly alike in both pictures. Yeah, yeah. Okay, here's a panoramic view. And Durango is so lucky that we're surrounded by mountains. We have so many early panoramic views of Durango. Photographers just used to go get up on the hills and take pictures, and we have them. This one is actually, we believe, was taken by Henry Goner, and he was one of the early professional photographers of Durango, and he took so many good pictures that we have in our collections. And
or it might be his son.
Or it might be his son. And we're not 100% sure on that one, but that's the... Or
it is his son.
Oh, it's his son. Okay, okay, Susan, thank you. But that 1920, just point out one thing. It's hard for me to see here, but I'll make sure I'm looking. That house is 3106 West Second Avenue. It's that Victorian house right across the street. When you leave, just look over there. My friend Marcia lives in that house now, and anyway, that's one thing in this picture you can certainly identify. The other thing would probably be the Animas Museum. It's right here.
Yeah. But again, that is after the fire of 1919. So you have a flat roof structure. There's no gable roof. And then over there to the right, there's a building, maybe you can point it out, which was the Presbyterian Church.
Oh, to the left. Okay, yeah. This is it right here. And tell them where exactly that was located, Charlie.
It's at the head of what is today 32nd Street.
Right in the
32nd
middle.
Street, dead ended right at the front of the building. And of course, you can see that the main street, which was the West Animas Road, going up there.
Mhm.
So, and again, on that picture, you can see the stone barn there that still exists by City Market. It's over here to, you're right. It's a white right here.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway,
if you follow that road down from that church, it goes straight down 32nd. You can't really see the bridge, but the road goes down and crosses the river at 32nd. So here's.
Well, and then again, our building here is surrounded by poplar trees, which don't exist anymore. They were a short-lived tree. When we took over the building, there were still some stumps, and that was the end of them. But they were popular landscape trees because they grew quickly, but then they also died quickly and created a hazard. So over the years, they were, cut down.
This is where 32nd Street comes down right here. It's kind of hard looking at this angle, but I can see it better on the computer. So anyway, here's a picture I took pretty close. Obviously, City Market, the stone building is right in here. I'm not sure what else to point out other than here's the museum.
You can see how much different it looks with that pitched roof back on it compared to that earlier picture there. Yeah. So.
Okay, this is a photo taken in 1948. Not as old as a lot of these, but we know where it was taken. It was taken from Lion's Den. And you can see Florida Road traversing the bottom part of the picture. Very undeveloped still in that part of Durango and looking up the Animas Valley.
Yeah, you've got the oxbows of the river in there and so forth. So this would be the eastern part of over on the other side of what is today Riverview going east.
Yeah. And when I say Lion's Den, if you don't know where Lion's Den is, it's that stone structure. It was built in the 1930s, straight across the street from Hillcrest Golf Course. It sits on the edge of Fort Lewis Hill. You used to call it Reservoir Hill. It's a lot of buildings. They've kept the valleys pretty unbuilt on, but every place else it's got a lot of changes there. It's kind of fun to see the changes, but sometimes I'm surprised at how little things have changed in some of these pictures. Go back, there it is. Pretty good.
What's that? The Mormon church.
Yeah, it is Mormon church.
Someone was asking, there's a steeple there. That's the the Mormon Steakhouse. It's a big black roof with a white
Mhm.
steeple on it.
Yeah, and I don't know, if you drive up 32nd Street, Holly's Drive comes around and connects to um, Holly Drive connects to Florida Road, and it comes fairly close to that church, but the church is kind of out of the way.
It's in Hilltop Circle, I
Yeah,
think.
it's
what
it's
it's
definitely
called.
not on a
Yeah, it's
highly
not on a
traveled.
main road.
Yeah. 1908, that's what the fairgrounds really was first built for, was horse racing. They did other things there, but horse racing was a kind of phenomenon back in those days that everybody was really interested in horse racing. And it was a rural agricultural society, and it was a big deal. And this is one of my favorite pictures. There's still some of those Ponderosa pines, I think, still down there. You can't quite see them, but it's not much to look at now. Baseball fields. Go back and you can compare it. Now this is taken at a little higher elevation, so it's kind of looking down. I'm pretty sure there was a announcer stand that they took that picture from that was kind of higher up.
And
I
a
think
grandstand.
Yeah,
There was a wooden
yeah,
grandstand there.
yeah. This is yeah, there was. Anyway, that's Wardley Field. Yeah, yeah. Another panorama. Now this one we believe was taken by Jacob Boston. And you see these pictures that all say Boston on it. And people think, well, that's Boston. That's not Boston. Well, that was the name of the photographer. And we believe he took this picture, 1892. And a couple things to note. The depot is down here. It used to be dark in color. Now it's very light. The roundhouse is in between photographer and the depot, and of course the smelter on the bottom. Show the sampling house chart, because this
was the ore sampling works here. It was started by Rockwood. And right here is a little brick building that was the office for the ore sampling works. And that building still stands at the south end of East 3rd Avenue. And it's, again, it's had an addition sort of put on it, but for many years, the Koshak family, after the sampling works shut down, it was purchased by the Koshak family, and they had a small grocery store in that building along with their home. And so forth. So at that end of 3rd Avenue, there was a large boarding house there at one time, and a hotel and so forth that doesn't exist anymore.
a couple things just to point out in this picture. Show them, point to Longfellow School.
Longfellow School would be over here.
It burned.
It burned in 1901. It was Durango's first school. It opened in 1882. And then if you go up there into the center, you see the 1891 La Plata County Courthouse right here. And right beyond that is St. Columba Church and Mercy Hospital and St. Mary's Academy, which was between the two.
So one way we do date pictures are, we know a lot of times when buildings were built. So we know if the picture doesn't show that, or if the picture doesn't show that building, we know it was taken before that building was built. We also know what year a lot of the buildings were destroyed or demolished, and that also helps us to date pictures. So this one's pretty accurately 1892. And sometimes you find a picture and it's actually written on the back when it was taken, and that's the best information.
But we've even found mistakes with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes people date them and they're wrong.
Yeah. One other thing I'd point out here is kind of cool is they did a lot of fill on what Charlie and I know is Sixth Street. Now they call it College Drive. I guess you could change names back, right? Like Gulf of Mexico, we're thinking about changing that name back to Sixth Street. But no, I'm just joking. But you could see all the fill they had to put in. Before it was kind of a bridge going down College between East Second and Main Avenue. There it is today. See the depot, roundhouse. And I don't know if you can still see that Koshak house. It's right here. That's that house right there, right?
Yep.
Of course, St. Columba's still up there. Main Street hasn't moved. Go back.
Got a new hotel in there.
Oh, another thing to mention too is when they put the highway in, this highway, they did alter the where the river runs. They altered the what do you call it? Alignment of the river.
And some of that occurred as a result of the 1911 flood, but a lot of fill was put in there again during highway construction after the railroad right of way was given up in when they abandoned the main line of the railroad in 1969. So that's the major change in there, is that of course Camino del Rio never existed, and the whole highway corridor there is new.
That's the structure south end of Third, up above that, yeah, right where your finger was, it looks like a water tower or something.
No, it's a hotel right there.
Oh.
So anyway,
Oh, that large building on the lower end of Third Avenue was a hotel. And it burned, and it doesn't exist anymore.
okay. Another panoramic view. And some of these photos, you think, well, why? I found out when I was going around matching photos, they didn't go to the top of the hills to do it. And I thought, well, why didn't they go up there? And then I realized there weren't roads up there. They had to carry all this camera equipment. They probably got just high enough to get a picture and took it. They didn't go to, like, this was not taken from the top of what we call Fort Lewis Hill. Then it was Reservoir Hill. It's lower down. But this is the 16th. This is after the flood of 1911, which this is the 16th, or I'm sorry, 15th Street Bridge, Main Avenue. Charlie dated this a little later than originally thought. What was it that made you?
No, we didn't change that date. We should have changed that. That's actually before 1911.
Oh.
How did you know, Charlie?
Pardon?
How did you know the 1911?
It's before 1911 because of the railroad bridge there. That's still a timber bridge. And that bridge was severely damaged in the flood of 1911. And they replaced it with the current steel girder bridge. The approaches on both sides are still timber, but the main span of the bridge is today metal instead of timber.
Yeah, that's why I got confused. I remember we talked about changing the date, and I didn't realize we hadn't.
Yeah.
I need to. You have a black magic marker, Susan? I'll just change that to something.
We're only human. But and the other big thing there is the area that is now occupied at the bottom of the screen by the fish hatchery. That is still agricultural land. There's no fish hatchery there yet, and again, you can just barely see the half of St. Columba Church over here on the margin, and they haven't increased the size of the steeple. The steeple was changed several times. The main structure is still the same structure. It's just that they modified the steeple, and the vestibule area in front of the building was added at a later point. So,
and Charlie also mentioned to me the other day that the Main Street Bridge was still wood when this picture was taken, and that was before 1911.
Yeah.
There it is.
Did the hatchery come in?
In the teens, early teens.
Yeah, we can look, that's pretty
It's,
easy to look up.
They had other hatchery facilities in the region, but then as sport fishing became more important, then they developed this hatchery. And
It was very early. It was the
yeah,
first or second fish hatchery in the state.
yeah,
So anyway,
okay. There were private hatcheries before, and Janet said this is the first state hatchery that was established. So
and you can, I mean, these, I don't know how old these trees are. They're fairly old, but they weren't anywhere to be seen back then. They're in the 20s, Janet? Okay. Pine, she just told us those pine trees planted in the 1920s, which makes sense.
at one time in the 1920s, we had an Isaac Walton League organization here that had a wildlife zoo there. So orphaned animals and so forth were brought there, and they had a small zoo along with the hatchery facility.
Okay, next.
But Ed, that perspective looked almost identical. Does that mean you climbed down?
I did go down the hill and there's a big rock outcropping and I figured this is where the guy took the picture. I did. I went down. Yeah, because I was looking at a match. It's like, it's just not the right angle. And I figured that out. St. Columba after 1898, and Charlie knew that was after 1898 because you know more of the history.
The reason is that behind the church there is the rectory, the house, the priest's house. It was built in 1898. It's a sandstone structure. And so that's how you can definitely date that. We know it has to be after 1898. Again, it has the original windows there before leaded glass windows were installed, and it doesn't have the vestibule on the front.
You'll see
And
big.
next door to it there is St. Mary's Academy, which was the site of the original Mercy Hospital and the boarding school before they built the stone hospital over on East 3rd Avenue, a block away. So,
St. Columba was built really early, 1881, and they built it in that spot, I'm told, because they wanted to serve both Animas City and Durango, because Animas City was actually the bigger city back then. They wanted to put it kind of midway between. And that's why it didn't end up on 3rd Avenue like a lot of the other churches did. There it is today. This is the vestibule Charlie was talking about that's been added on. We actually have a lot of pictures of people on the steps back here. I didn't, someday we'll go through, look at some of those, but we have a lot of old pictures of St. Columba. I'm not sure why, but we do.
and of course, the St. Mary's Academy was torn down in the 1920s when the parish built a new brick school building north of the church, which is still in use today. And then in the 1950s, they built the new school on the site of where the old boarding school had been.
And you can't really see it, but that rectory is still there. I have other pictures that shows it too. Okay, this is very early picture taken by, this picture was taken by this photographer, E.A. Wilder, in 1881. And I would like, you want to guess where that is? I mean, it's kind of not that hard, but it's like, when I show you the next picture, you might go, oh, wow, I didn't know that used to be there. Anything you want to say about this, Charlie?
Well, it's a great early picture, and the original that we have is very damaged. So this has had restoration work done to remove some major damage in the central part of the picture. So it shows what you can do with modern technology. But It's a great early picture. Of course, all these burros are probably lined up at the blacksmith shop of Charles Neglin, waiting to be shod. And uh, anyway, go ahead with.
Well, I was gonna say, this house still exists on East Park Avenue, down by Viles, kind of close to Viles Park, close
Yeah.
to St. Columba. St. Columba would be visible behind Naglin's sign, I believe,
Right,
if,
it would be.
Durango was Dogtown at the beginning.
yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a dog town. That's it. It's like, that's the 1300 block of Main. This, when we were growing up, this was City Market. Now it's AutoZone. These are just offices, different kinds of offices. So it's like kind of hard to picture how that block used to look.
But again, you can see urban trees there
Yeah.
sort of block the outline of Missionary Ridge and so
Yeah.
forth, but it's the same spot.
Yeah. Okay, this is I'll make sure I get this right, is the 900 block of East, or no, the 100 block of West 9th Street.
Yes.
This is 9th Street, off of Main Avenue,
At the railroad tracks.
going on the west side. You can see the railroad tracks back there. It's real close to the DNRG storage
Rail yard.
rail yard. And this Farmer Supply was the precursor to Krager's. If you follow the history of how Krager's that we know today down Town Plaza, this is the company that was started and that followed through in ownership to be Krager's today. And Tottenham Galleries
It's where the parking lot is. there
parking lot.
In that picture, which is Totten Gallery's parking lot.
So in your mind's eye, the city market is just to the west down there. You can even see the city market truck. So,
Yeah.
but that's changed a lot.
And that is the Luttrell building, which was, Luttrell was the agent for the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad Company when the town of Durango was established. And Luttrell handled real estate sales for the railroad company when they developed Durango. And this was one of the first buildings built. And it housed a hotel originally. And this picture is again the 1920s, and half of the building had been destroyed by fire by that point. So the building was twice as big as this. In 1881, it housed the first Durango post office originally downstairs. It had a hotel upstairs. It had lodge rooms. The first Masonic lodge in Durango was upstairs in that building. And it had a number of other businesses over the years. But by the time of the 20s, again, that building's in pretty rough shape. And there had been numerous fires to the east of us in the 900 block of Main. And so this was one of the last remnants of really early Durango. And again, it was unusual because it was a brick building built in 1880, and they started it in 1880. And it was soft, locally made brick, so that's probably why it didn't hold up very well. And anyway, it's just an interesting reuse of a building over the years. And in this picture, the stone building that you see, there was Folsom's dental parlors. Folsom owned a building adjacent to the Luttrell building that was a wooden building originally, and Folsom had one of the first undertaking parlors in Durango, and it that building burned in the early 1890s, and he replaced it with this stone building, which opened after about 1900. And upstairs, they had the dental parlors, and down in the lower level, there was the mortuary.
So just talking about before and after, that sign, I think you recognize, that used to be the Chief Diner sign, and it's kind of controversial, so I won't dwell on that. But this is Graydon Mill, flour mill, and the elevator. Flour mill was built 1883, and the elevator was built in 1892. People guess where that, they didn't actually, this was still there until the 1970s. Still, it was abandoned. It was decrepit. It looked like a haunted house. I remember it. It was like, oh, but it is the DoubleTree. It was Red Lion and DoubleTree, and that's a hard one to get a good picture of because it's just there was a railroad siding there, but things have changed so much there. And Graydon also had a lumber mill. Had a lumber mill that was just to the north of that, where Albertsons is now.
And a slaughterhouse.
Let's keep going. I don't want to run out of time here.
Yep.
So anyway, that's that. This is early. Taken, anybody know what 100 block that might be? It's the 1100 block. This is the Grand Central livery. So certainly well before automobiles. The tin shop still exists. Well, not as a tin shop, and not that you would recognize it. So old model tire store that now I guess is a Pilates exercise place. That's what 1100 block looks like today. And sorry, talking about all these buildings.
Well, these buildings all were destroyed in the big fire of 1889, except for the tin shop over there. But it was a brick building, so it survived the fire. But in 1889, all of this area and going clear up to 3rd Avenue was destroyed in a fire on July the 1st of 1889. And that was one of the biggest and most disastrous fires in Durango's history. And so after that fire, the buildings that replaced them were required to be built in masonry. And so, and there were still big gaps in that area up until almost current times. But of course, today on this corner where Grand Central Livery was located is the Bank of Colorado building, which replaced the old COD laundry building. And there were lots of other businesses in that block. So
and Susan, was this the one? I think this photo may have been taken by W.H. Lawrence, and we don't know a lot about Lawrence, but we do know he took the picture. And then Ed Horvat took this picture. We know that. Just joking. Oh, this is 8th Street, 1 block east of downtown. Or downtown, 1 block east of Main Street. So this leads down. Everybody know what that building is now? It still exists. Bank of the San Juan. Just this, I've had this one in the Herald a couple of weeks ago, so people should be familiar with it if they saw it. But we know this was taken in 1918. And Charlie, talk a little about why there's 2 hearses there.
Well, what happened in 1918? This was the flu epidemic, and people were dying faster than they could bury them. And in this particular case, 2 members of a family died, and so they had their funeral at the same time. There were, of course, quarantine restrictions during the flu epidemic, and so when they had funerals, the only people that were allowed to go to the funerals were immediate family. And so you don't see a huge crowd of people there, or anything, because again, that was outlawed by, the city, health officials. So, anyway, there was a number of cases like this where multiple people in the family died within hours of each other. And so they would have, a single funeral for multiple people.
My great uncle, my dad's uncle, my grandfather's brother was 23, died in the flu epidemic. Came from Slovenia, worked at the smelter. Only been here a couple of years, died. The thing about the Goodmans, by 1920 they were out of the mortuary business. Apparently because they buried so many friends and relatives of friends that they just didn't want to have anything to do with the mortuary business anymore. There it is. I took this on Christmas Day. I went downtown because I wanted to get pictures of cars not in front of all the buildings. I thought, well, maybe Christmas. And then it started snowing, but it's a good picture. But I defy anybody to go downtown and try to get a picture of a building without a car in front of it. You can't do it unless you're made middle of the night, and then you can't get the picture. It's really hard. But that must be a well-built building.
Go back to the historic picture. Goodmans were in the paint and wallpaper business. So, over there where there's the overhanging sign, that was the paint and wallpaper and glass business. And then the undertaking parlors were in the other 2/3 of the building.
Right.
So. Yep.
Okay. This is 1938. Obviously Main Street. Where on Main Street? Charlie was able to really identify this closely, so I was able to get a really pretty good approximation. Which?
It says east by southwest. No.
Oh, no. Oh, east by southwest. No. This is Junction Creek. These two brothers are the Conway brothers. There's Ed, Joe, and Tom, and this guy's son, Don DeLuche, wasn't sure which of the two brothers of the three these two were. But this is Don DeLuche, taken 1938. And I'll tell you a little bit about him, but let's look at what this looks like today. Junction Creek, right there. Durango High School to your right. Durango, if you just walk up that block a bit, you'll see the Chamber of Commerce. This is the transition from 22nd to 23rd on Main Street is Junction Creek. So this is basically taken right at Junction Creek, and you're looking up 2300 block. And this is if this home still existed, it would be on the National Registry of Historic Places, because it's the boyhood home of Charles DiFerdinando. But they tore it down, so they missed out on that tourist attraction.
Someone was asking if that other structure there that you can see the front porch is still there. Yes. Go back to your modern picture. They've added on to the front of it, but it's still the original structure.
One thing to realize is Main Street is way, way wider now than it was back then. It's just has completely been built out on both sides.
You can see it was a 2-lane road at that time. In 1960, the highway department widened Main Street because it was the state highway through Durango. And so, yes, it goes right up to the front of that building today.
Yeah. So just a real quick little history on this guy, Don DeLuche. You tell those guys probably like to go fast. Well, he was a P-38 Lightning pilot during World War II. Actually joined the Army Air Corps in 1940, became an instructor because he was in early, but actually before the war started. And then he owned the Bessie G mine up in La Plata. He was a miner, and he died at the age of 78 in 1998. Did a little research on that gentleman. But anyway, Brennan's Lighthouse, Texaco, built in 1923. Anybody recognize where that it would be today? It's where you turn off to go down to the fish hatchery. And the Brennans still, a few years ago, still owned the gas station up at the corner. So they're still in, the Brennans are still in the oil business. And that was built by Mike Brennan in 1923. It was demolished around 1949. They had a little takeout restaurant called the Blue Pig Barbecue. And it was built in there. And the Brennans told me if you drive down to the fish hatchery, you can still see a lot of these rocks are still there. The stones that they built that station on. A lot more trees there. You can't even see the mountains. Guess where that is? It is. It's Buckley. It used to be. Things have changed there. One thing to note is through the Ferris wheel, you can see the courthouse, 1920s. We don't know the exact date. This is the model tire store. That tin shop was right there back in the day. Still there. Still there. That's where they had the carnivals and stuff. And we have other pictures, and they did have a parade. They were getting ready for a parade when they took these pictures. We have a lot of good parade pictures from the same event. All right. That one might be hard to tell, but if you look, you can see Herald Democrat. Maybe remember where the Herald used to be? This is Wally Millette. He was a recruiter during the war, and he wrote a feature in the Herald for many, many years, the clubhouse porch.
But he had served in World War I, and then when World War II broke out, he re-enlisted and was a recruiter.
Same 1100 block. The Herald Democrat was there. Now it's I believe the same building as the Wells Group. And that picture I took standing in front of 11th Street Station, the place where all the food trucks are. But we like that one because it had people in it. And like I say, you can't get a picture without cars in it downtown. Now that one, I think some of you should be able to recognize, not the people, but the buildings. Remember what restaurant this was till just a few years ago? That's Old Timers. The other thing I want to point out on this picture, it looks like there's an empty lot here, but there isn't. That was the Gem Theater, and it had a walk through on the corner. It had a pillar coming out, and the entryway you walked. But
it has a recessed entrance.
We have other pictures that show it better, but these women in 1928. When they were probably attending an event at the Gem Theater because it was the main theater in Durango. But let me point out this rounded window, that used to be the walkway where you'd walk through. That was the entryway, and now it's closed up. And that's the Jarvis building. And there across the street, obviously, is Wall Drug, then Old Timers. And notice how fashion has changed. So that's at the corner of 10th Street and Main. This 1958 thing to notice here is there's that Graydon's elevator and flour mill right back there. It was still a going enterprise in 1958. This is well, I'll show you what this looks like today. They built the highway right through there, and they had to bring in a lot of fill to make that highway go through there, but still that part of the train yard. If you look at Perrins Peak and Twin Buttes off to the left and Hogback, you can see it's pretty close.
The other thing, clear over there on the far side, you see that pink pile? That's radioactive tailings, uranium tailings from the Vanadium Corporation of America
Yeah.
mill. Yes,
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, huge change.
Yep.
That was, we believe this photo was taken by Henry Garner. And that's the powerhouse, the old powerhouse that was built in 1892. And now it's the Powerhouse Museum. And it's still in pretty good shape. I mean, it had gotten pretty run down. They closed it in the 1970s. They quit producing energy down there. And it sat around, the city owned it, couldn't figure out what to do with it, kind of got run down. And then they eventually refurbished it and turned it into the Powerhouse Museum. And so I didn't want to leave out other places in the county because we are a county historical society. Anyone want to guess where that's Ignacio. That was probably a armistice parade or a 4th of July parade in 1918. And it's at the corner of Ute and Goddard, which is their main street. And that's street that takes off to the right is 151 that goes out to Navajo Dam. But this is the same building. It's just completely covered over. It is the same building, though. You can, if you go look, and you can actually see some of the same things in it. But then where Wells Fargo is on the left, that was we know this was taken after a fire at the Aspa store, and you can see the burn marks from the fire at the Aspa store. And that occurred before 1918. I think it's 1917. So we know it was real close.
but that building is still the bank. They've just put a new front on it. It's stuccoed over that. It was cement block, but it's the same building over there to the far side.
Another one, another town close by in La Plata County. That's Bayfield. 1910, that was a drugstore. I think still exists. This is the one, and what I told you that I gave my talk on my that book we did, and I took this one out to the Bayfield Library, and they really liked this one because I took this and the modern picture out, and that was one of the things that told me that people might be interested in seeing before and afters. The building's still there. Of course, there's an addition to the left-hand side that's no longer there. But that's at Mill and Pine Street. And Mill is their main drag in downtown Bayfield. But the false front still is pretty cool because they still have the false front. I don't think they do anything, but maybe store stuff in there. I have no idea who owns it.
Just makes it look bigger.
Yeah. So the next picture I want to show you, I think is the next one, the one so what do you think a picture taken 65 years ago, and then I go to take it again, and the same person is in that picture. What are the odds? It defies the law of averages. It's one in millions that you could actually have the same person in the picture 62 years later. But this is the steps of St. Columba looking down from 1960. And that kid, he showed up when I went to take the next picture. What are the odds? Can you imagine? But I will say this, I was there. Joe Murphy, my pal Joe Murphy was there. This is St. Columba.
Well, that's not 1960.
I know, it would have been 1962 probably, wouldn't it?
61.
61, okay. I need a magic marker, Susan. I'll take it. 61, that's right. But anyway, if Charlie looks like he's a little perturbed. He was. The nuns made him shave his beard for that picture. And I tell you, he hasn't shaved it since. So I think that's the timing's about right. Oh, I gotta tell you, Charlie had no idea that was coming up. Susan and I held that.
I had an inkling, but
well, he had to go down there. I got him to go down and stand there. I said, Charlie, I need to get some perspective on some old pictures. Will you just stand there to give me a perspective?
where did you find that?
The Brennans, the
Oh,
first
my
comedian,
goodness.
the Brennans gave it to me. Okay, here I need to read this question. During the 1960s, the flat roof of Animas School became a kickball repository. Some kids, not sure who, would kick the balls up on the roof during recess, then climb up on the roof after everyone left. That's not a question, that's a statement. And I know who sent this, and I know it's the truth. I'm sure this is Matt Miller. He's the guy whose parents owned Spanish Trails back in the day when it was the nicest motel in town. Maybe not so much anymore, but anyway, yeah, that was a problem with that flat roof, kickballs. Anything else?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Came to mind with your show a picture of the Jarvis building. Why did 10th Street not cross the tracks and connect with the main building?
I don't know.
Every other street does.
The question was, why did 10th Street end at the railroad tracks? It's because everything west of the railroad tracks was Denver and Rio Grande Railroad property. It was not part of incorporated Durango. So all of the streets ended at the railroad tracks. And it wasn't until much later that when development occurred on that property that was between the railroad tracks and the river, and when the ownership changed from the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad to private entities, people asked then to be annexed into the city limits of Durango, and that's when the streets were extended. But 11th Street ends, the legal description of 11th Street ends at the railroad tracks. If you go over the tracks into what is now Town Plaza, you're on private property. That's not a legal right-of-way. So if an accident occurs on the other side of the tracks, it's not on a city right-of-way. So there's a lot of legal issues there. But that was because, again, that area was still industrial up until 1960 when Town Plaza was developed by Alton Dorset and some other investors. And they never, they wanted that land. So they never asked for that street to be extended because they wanted control of that for their parking lot. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, any other questions? Susan, was there?
Is it known what started the 1889 fire?
The question was, what started the 1889 fire? The best guess and the best from firsthand accounts at the time, the fire started as a chimney fire in a restaurant on 10th Street, just west of Main Street. And the predominant wind was coming from the southwest, and it was very hot and dry. And of course, you've got all these wooden buildings with wooden shingle roofs. And once one building caught fire, the burning embers then were blown onto the roofs of the other buildings, and there was no controlling the fire. And the reason that the fire department had such an issue was that the night before there had been a major fire in the red light district across the tracks. And so when they extinguished that fire, all of the hoses were wet. You couldn't roll up the fire hoses when they were wet because they would rot. So they had all of the hoses laid out on Main Street in the 1000 block, and that was the first block to burn. And the fire spread so quickly that the fire department could not retrieve the hoses. And so you
And
can't
it
fight a
burned-
fire without fire hoses.
And it burned the fire station. They had a brand new fire truck that was destroyed by
Yeah.
the fire.
They had a Silsby steam pumper, and it was destroyed they couldn't even get it out of the firehouse before. And the firehouse was a brick building, but the roof caught fire and consumed it and what was left of the hoses.
So, oh, we're running over.
Another
Better.
question, are there any pictures available of Second Avenue and Seventh Street where the old La Paloma stood?
Ask that again.
Are there any pictures of
Oh.
Second Avenue and
Oh,
Seventh?
Oh,
I
it's
know.
Second Street,
Sorry.
Second Street.
and Seventh Avenue.
Avenue.
They're asking about the old La Paloma dance hall, which was originally the SPMDTU Lodge. That was the Hispanic Lodge. And later it became known as the La Paloma, and then it became known as the College Inn. The building, yes, there's some overview pictures that show
Yeah,
that.
I think
There's a postcard
Just-
image.
And just to give you an idea of where that is, 8th Avenue down by the Sonic, if you just go to the west a block, that's
Yeah.
where it was, just off. So, yeah.
That lodge, the Hispanic Lodge, their original location was on Main Street, in the 600 block on the west side, and where the Francisco's building is today. Then they moved up onto East 2nd Avenue and 5th Street. They had a big building up there, and then they moved from there and built their new building over at 2nd Street and 7th Avenue. And then that lodge disbanded.
Okay. Ready, Susan?
Yeah. We'll do.
Okay. Oh, all right. Well, thank you. Susan will finish up for us.
Oh my gosh, that was great. Thank you. I think it sounds like there's a fodder for more of these. So stay tuned. We'll do version 2, version 3. Who knows? Thank you guys, both Ed and Charlie. That was just so much fun, and I think everybody really loved it. Just a little bit of shameless self-promotion real quick. The museum is open Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 10 to 4, Wednesday and Friday from 1 to 4. So come see us, and as things are changing. Next month, we're going to take a break from our second Saturday seminars, but what we do, we have been putting all of our recordings on our YouTube channel. It's at Animas Museum, and we encourage you to go check some of those out. For instance, there's one on the Great Fire and how the Great Fire started and spread. There's some, the gold rush to the La Platas and coal, the other black gold, and there's a whole bunch of great. I think there's over 50 webinars up there. So check that out at Animas Museum on YouTube. And it's better than TV, if you ever get bored. Then our next event will be June 14th at 1 p.m., where local historian Patty Joy is going to join us to share the history of our local DAR chapter, the Sarah Platt Decker chapter, and talk about who Sarah Platt Decker was and why they named it after her. Again, there's no charge for this program, which will be kind of like hybrid, live and recorded and on Zoom. So watch for more information on our website about that one. History La Plata is coming in June. Help support our award-winning publication by being a friend. For $50, you'll get your name included in this issue, which will be available in the Durango Herald and online. You can sign up today. We've got these little cards out in the entryway, or you can do it on our website, animasmuseum.org. You can't miss it. The links are right there on top. And then finally, thank you all for being with us today. Keep up with us, join us. Members only get access to our online catalog database, and you can sign up on our website or sign up here today. Visit our website for more resources, subscribe to our e-blasts, follow us on Facebook, like us on Instagram, and if you want to see continued programming like this, be sure to hit the donate button on our website. Thank you for coming today.